You keep telling yourself you need a better morning routine. You need to wake up earlier, journal longer, meditate correctly, drink more water, stop checking your phone, start being disciplined. And for a few days, maybe you do. Then one small disruption happens. A bad night, a difficult email, a wave of dread you cannot explain, and the whole system collapses like it was never real to begin with. So you call yourself lazy, unfocused, weak, but that diagnosis is often wrong. What looks like laziness is very often nervous system overload, not a character flaw, a load problem. Your mind is trying to run complex software on overheated hardware. Of course it freezes. Of course, simple tasks suddenly feel absurdly heavy. Of course, the advice that works for regulated people feels insulting when your internal alarm is already switched on. Now, let's get precise. When your system detects threat, it reallocates resources. Attention narrows, muscles tense, digestion changes, working memory drops. Working memory is the small mental whiteboard you use to hold a thought long enough to act on it. If that whiteboard keeps getting erased by stress, then planning your day, answering a text, or deciding what to cook can feel weirdly impossible. This is why overload is so confusing. From the outside, nothing dramatic may be happening. You are just sitting there, staring at a sink, avoiding a tap, walking in circles before starting one email. Inside, though, your system is spending fuel on vigilance. And vigilance is expensive. A lot of self-help advice misses this. It treats motivation like a moral resource, as if you simply need to want it more. But motivation is not a button. It is more like traction. If the road is covered in ice, pressing harder on the gas does not create grip. It just burns energy and makes you feel ashamed. So, if you have been trying to solve overload with stricter discipline, the result is predictable. You add more demands to a system already exceeding capacity. More trackers, more rules, more guilt. The machine strains harder, then stalls harder. That is why you do not need a harsher speech. You need a better model. Here is the model. When you cannot do what matters, ask 3 questions. First, is this task actually hard, or is it friction-heavy? A friction-heavy task is simple in theory but loaded in practice. Maybe the form is confusing. Maybe there are too many tabs open. Maybe you do not know the first visible move. The problem is not laziness. The gears are jammed. Second, is your system activated? Activated means your body is behaving as if something urgent is happening, even if you are alone at home. Fast thoughts, tight chest, scanning, irritability, numbness. Sometimes activation does not feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels flat, frozen, foggy. That is still overload. Third, what is the smallest action that reduces load instead of increasing pressure? Notice the shift. Not the smallest productive action, the smallest load-reducing action. That may mean standing up and putting both feet on the floor, closing 17 tabs, filling 1 glass of water, opening the document without promising to finish it, texting 1 sentence instead of composing the perfect reply. These actions look unimpressive. Clinically, that is the point. You are restoring function through lower demand and increased predictability. You are giving the system evidence that movement is possible without punishment. And that matters because the brain learns from consequences, not speeches. If every attempt to restart your life comes with perfectionistic pressure, your brain starts pairing action with pain. Then, procrastination is not random. It is protective avoidance. Again, not a moral failure. A conditioned response. Conditioned just means your system learned an association through repetition, the way a song can make you feel sad before you even remember why. So the intervention has to change the association. Action must become smaller, safer, and more winnable than your instincts think it needs to be. Try this framework the next time you feel lazy. Name the state. Say, "This is overload, not identity." That interrupts the reflex to turn a temporary condition into a permanent self-description. Reduce the field. Pick one target only, not your whole life. One surface, one call, one paragraph. Lower the activation. Unclench your jaw. Exhale longer than you inhale. Sit down if you are pacing. Stand up if you are frozen. Change the body to change the signal. Shrink the move. Make the task so small it feels almost silly. Good. Silly is usable. Then close the loop. Let yourself register very plainly that you did the thing. Not with fake celebration, just accuracy. I started, I moved, the system responded. That is how capacity comes back, not through domination, through repeated proof. And one more thing. If this pattern is chronic, if ordinary tasks repeatedly trigger collapse, panic, shutdown, or severe avoidance, it may be worth talking to a licensed mental health professional. Not because you are broken, because persistent overload deserves proper assessment, especially when trauma, anxiety, depression, burnout, or attention difficulties may be involved. You do not have to self-diagnose perfectly to take your struggle seriously. So the next time you hear that voice calling you lazy, pause. Ask what the system is carrying. Ask where the friction is. Ask what would make the next move safer. Then start there, quietly, logically, compassionately. Because when the engine is flooded, the answer is not more force. It is repair.